So, in this episode of the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast, this is part two in a three-part series where I am walking you through the steps and some of the thoughts to have when life feels out of control. And I don't know about you, but there seems to be no shortage today in today's world of opportunities that we have to feel like life is out of control. And so this is the second installment. If you didn't listen to part one, you're probably going to want to do that first. Go back and listen to part one in this series. But here today, we're going to start by talking about and recognizing and calling your attention to some of the main things that you can't control, but we try. So we're going to call some of these big heavy hitters out. But then from there, we're going to talk about the things that we can control. And one of the things that you can control, spoiler alert, is your physical environment. And so when we get to that point in the episode, I'm going to give you a 4-step process that is going to show you how to roll up your sleeves and to put yourself back in the driver's seat, taking back control of an area in your home that feels out of control. Because when we learn how to take back control of our physical environment, we get better and we build confidence in our ability to be able to take back control of our mental environment, our thoughts, our mindset. And so that's going to prepare us for what we talk about in the third episode. So listen to the first episode in this series, and then come back and listen and learn today and roll up your sleeves. Be ready to roll up your sleeves and take some action in your physical environment today. With that, let's jump in and get started.
Well, hey there, I am Jennifer Roskamp, a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. As a midlife mom in her 40s, about to be a mom in my 50s, I've realized that it's so easy to lose yourself in caring for your family, your home, and all the things. Until one day you realize you're not even sure who you are anymore or what you even want in life. So on this podcast, we're going to work on managing yourself well so that you can manage all of the other things and people well too. So let's dive into what it means to manage your home, your time, your family, and yourself well. This is the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast.
So this is part two of a 3-part podcast series when we are talking about basically taking back control, what we can take control of in a world that feels out of control. And I don't know, it seems like in today's world, the past 4 or 5 years, maybe since COVID, it's like things feel more out of control to me than they ever have. And I know I'm not the only one because I hear it from my coaching clients. My coaching clients that I talk to all day long, they're feeling the exact same thing. So are my friends and my family members that I talk to out in the world, and just listening to random conversations in places. I think we all are just struggling with feeling like we have some say-so in our lives. And so in part one, we talked a little bit about what it actually means to get out of the back seat and into the driver's seat, which is something we talk about here on this podcast all the time. We talked about remembering that we still get to decide. We talked about how in every situation, in every circumstance, we always get to at least decide our responses, our interpretations, and our reactions to the circumstances around us. And then that was kind of what we talked about in the first section of the first episode. And then we talked about this whole idea of being human and how we don't like feeling out of control. And so that's what makes this 3-part series so valuable, because you are wired to not like feeling like you are out of control and like you have no say-so in your life. And so we left off saying that in this episode, we are going to start off by talking about the things that we can't control. And so we're going to do that, but then we're going to pivot and we're going to talk about the things that we can control, because that is where we really get to the good stuff. So let's talk first about the things that we can't control. Let's be clear on these things. We can take action, right? But we can't control certain things. Control in the way that we're going to be talking about it here means that you are able to manipulate a person or people or a situation. And there are situations, there are circumstances in which we can't do that. But again, know that you can always control your reactions. You can always control your responses. But what happens is we are not clear on the things that we can't control. And so much of our efforts, so much of our time, so much of our resources, we spend so many of those things trying to control the things we can't control, right? So let's start by talking about some of these things. Number one, the world around us. The world around us. We can do things to influence the world around us, whether we're talking about the small world around you, your small little ecosphere, or on a larger scale. There are things that we can do to take action. There are things that we can do to influence the world around us, again, in big ways and small ways. But at the end of the day, we can't control the outcome. The world around us always involves other people. It involves situations that are outside of our scope of what we can deal with. But we still, in our minds, I think, feel like we can influence and affect the outcome when we can't. So the world around us, that is the first thing that we can't control. Another thing we can't control is other people's perceptions of you. Man, we know this is true too, don't we? So often people make assumptions about us. They will make interpretations about us. Sometimes we'll even get told by other people about what we think or what we feel. And it's just not true. But we can't change what another person thinks. And we can't change. Again, we can influence, we can try to portray ourselves in such a way that the people, especially the people we care about, have a correct perception of us. But in reality, everybody's going to make their own thoughts. People are going to have their own perception about you. Whether or not we like it, that is just the way that it is. So just be clear. You can, again, do what you can to influence someone else's thoughts, but you can't control someone else's thoughts or perceptions, especially their perceptions about you. The third thing we can't control is other people's actions. This is something that, oh man, is so hard for us to realize, right? I don't know about you, but I know I can sure have a hard time remembering that I don't control other people. I can run myself ragged sometimes trying. And this is so true, I think, when you're a mom, when you've got kids. And, as I think about my life's journey as a mom, I've now got adult kids. When your kids are little, you can control their actions to a certain degree, right? But as they get older, we can control that less and less and less. And that's a good thing, right? This whole transfer of ownership is supposed to happen with kids. But in general, you cannot control, just like you cannot control another person's thoughts or perceptions, you can't control another person's actions. Again, you can encourage certain actions, you can request certain actions, but you can't control them. So hard. And the cool thing is that when I'm drawing your attention to the things that we can't control, when I call that out, and if you raise your hand like I do and recognize, you know what, I do try to control people fairly on the regular. Now that you know this, you can save your precious energy when you catch yourself trying to do it. Let this be a reminder. Again, I can try to encourage or influence, but I can't control. And so I'm going to stop trying to control other people's actions. Expectations. You also can't control anyone else's expectations of you. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I see this all the time in my life. I see this all the time in the lives of my coaching clients. Unmet or unrealistic expectations that one person has as of another. This is the root of so much conflict. I think so much conflict, so much hurt, so much pain could be saved in relationships if we just were all able, right? If everyone who is in the relationship is able to control their expectations, it would change relationships. So often, unrealistic, unmet, unfair, unjust expectations are the root of conflict. But in reality, it's important for us to recognize that we can't control another person's expectations. Again, we can try to be clear on what someone's expectations could or should be. We can try to be clear on what we can and can't do in a situation. But ultimately, if someone creates expectations of us, it's their creation. We can't control that. Something else we can't control as it relates to someone else, we can't control other people's struggles. But man, don't we wish we could sometimes? I think we experience this a lot as moms too. When our kids are struggling, we wish we could just come in and take control, don't we? But whether it's your kid or your parents or your friend or your coworker or someone else, in reality, we can't control another person's struggles. This is especially hard when we see that someone is struggling and they aren't taking certain actions that we perceive could help their situation. If they're just not interested in helping themselves, man, so hard. It's so hard to just sit back. But when we recognize that we can't control someone else's struggles, we don't have to internalize their struggle either. And I know that's something that I often find myself doing, especially again, when it's my kids. We can't control anyone else's struggles, and therefore we shouldn't internalize them either. Again, we can try to help other people in their struggle, but we can't control it for them. And so these are just a handful of kind of the big things that I see, of things that I really wanted to call your attention to as things that we can't control. But recognizing them, calling them out here, and being aware of what these things are that we can't control, well, that alone gives us more control over these things than just not realizing it or even denying that we can't control these things. We have a lot more control when we recognize I can't control these things. Therefore, I'm going to stop trying, right? Because sometimes these things and our attempts to control these things can be all consuming. But really being clear of what we can't control is huge. So recognize that it is normal. Recognize that we all fall victim to trying to control these things and plenty of others. But at the end of the day, when you recognize them, you don't have to. What this does for you is it allows you to no longer be a victim of what you can't control. So that's some of the things, some of the heavy hitters of things that we can't control. So now let's talk about the things that we can control. So whether or not you realize it, the list of things that you can control is a lot larger than the list of things you can't control. And again, we didn't cover all of the things you can't control here. But even if we were to lump all of those things that we can't control together, the things that we can control will be a much larger collection of things. But most times it does feel the opposite, especially if you are in a season or a thought pattern, a series of thought patterns where you really feel like your life is out of control. It can feel like the things we can't control are much larger than the things that we can. And that's part of my motivation for sharing this 3-part series with you. Because so often we can feel inaccurately like our lives are out of control. But I'm excited to share that, you know what? It's really not that way. The truth is, here's a truth. I love mantras. I love truths. Here's a truth. I can control most of my life. I can control most of my life. When something happens to you that you don't like, you are likely, it's an undesirable situation. Something happens to you that, again, is something you don't prefer. You'll likely work through the steps that we're working through here in the podcast. I hope you're taking notes. I hope that you're writing these things down so that when life hands you a hand of cards that you just as soon swap out, go through these steps. When life hands us something we don't like, our go-to response, one of them is this feeling of out of control, being out of control. So when you have these skills, it allows you to say, yes, that happened. Yes, this is my reality. But how can I take control of myself in this reality, in this circumstance? And that's what I'm arming you with here today. You can choose to use these steps that we're working through here in these 3 episodes and move forward from this place where life feels out of control to a place where you say, you know what, this happened, but here's what I can do. Here's how I can move forward with it. This is how you move forward from pain and anxiety and depression. Not that those aren't real things that sometimes we need additional help with. We do. But in the cases where we can make some forward progress, we can step away from these things, at least to a certain degree. These steps are going to help you do that. One of the things that I teach all of my coaching clients to do is a skill we call reassessment. And basically what reassessment does is we talk about reassessing our days, we talk about reassessing our weeks. Essentially what reassessment does is it allows you to say, all right, this happened, right? Plan A. My plan A was my day was supposed to go this way this week, today. This week was supposed to go this way. I was supposed to be able to get this, that, and the other thing done. This was supposed to happen. This was supposed to not happen, right? We have our plan A. We make our plans. And that's a good thing. We're better off making a plan than we are having no plan at all. But we make our plans and then life comes in and doesn't follow the plan. And so then we have our plan and then we have life's reality. And what the skill of reassessment does is it allows you to take your plan A and life's reality and kind of create a plan B from them. It basically says, okay, here's my plan A, here's life's reality. How can these play together nicely? How can I reconcile what I thought would happen with what actually happened and be okay with it? How can I not wave the white flag and say, well, I guess life feels out of control and I guess that's just the way it is. I guess life is just going to be out of control. The skill of reassessment, again, puts you back in that driver's seat where you are taking back control of the things that you can take back control of. And remember, there's always one thing in every equation that you can control, and that is yourself. So here are some major things that you can control. And we talked a little bit about this first one in the first episode where we talked about how you are intaking the information that you are intaking. But we're going to hit this again from a different angle, and we're going to hit this again because it's so important. The first thing that you can control is your exposure. Your exposure to external stimuli. Watch for negativity. Where are you exposing and opening yourself up to experience negativity based on what you are exposing yourself to? Remember, those no exposure times from step 2 in the first episode that we have here, that was such a huge skill to give yourself. I suggested to take 2, maybe 3 little breaks throughout your day where you are not exposing yourself to any external stimuli, where you are just quiet with your thoughts. You are just regaining your thoughts, regaining your composure, kind of regaining your power, kind of regaining your remembering, you know what? I can control most of my life. I can control my thoughts. I get to control my thoughts. I'm the only one who can control my thoughts and my responses, and my reactions, in my attitude, in my words, in my actions. Just getting quiet with yourself, but also being aware of what you're exposing yourself to. How much negativity are you opening yourself to? Limit the amount of negativity. Again, what prompted me to kind of share this 3-part episode, which again came out of a course that I created years ago that I still get emails from people about. Man, thank you for this course. What prompted me to release these episodes at this time was because here in the United States, we just came through an election season. And if you want to talk about negativity, I don't know in what environment we can experience more negativity, more opportunity for negativity than it is to be in the full swing of election season. I don't know about you, but man, I am so excited to move forward from all of that negative exposure. But your exposure, that's one thing you can control. Something else you can control, your thoughts and emotions. And just like I said, the bonus thing to realize here is you are the only one who can control your thoughts and emotions. And I hope you find that freeing, because that also means that nobody else can control your thoughts and feelings. But how often do we allow other people to control our thoughts and feelings without realizing we don't have to surrender our thoughts and feelings to someone else? Just because someone else is trying to control our thoughts and feelings doesn't mean we have to allow it. But anyway, back to your thoughts and emotions. You do need to have your thoughts and you do need to feel your feelings. Just this morning in a text thread with one of my coaching clients, I was reminding her, you are not wrong for feeling any feelings that you feel. If you feel a feeling, whatever it is, if that is a feeling or an emotion that you are having, it is 100% valid, because it is 100% valid to you. We are not wrong for our feelings, but so often we feel like we are bad or we are wrong because of certain feelings or emotions that we're having. And I'm not saying that we should be having all of our feelings and emotions. There are certain feelings and emotions that are not serving us, and that is what we want to be on the lookout for. But we are not wrong. You are not wrong for any feeling or emotion that you have, and it is valid. We do not have to justify our feelings. We do not have to feel guilty for our feelings. If you are feeling a certain feeling or emotion, it is 100% allowable and 100% okay and 100% valid. So when we're feeling these feelings and emotions, though, we do need to process through them. And if they are feelings that you conclude are not helping you, if they are not helping put you in a positive headspace, if they are not equipping you to make forward movement, if they are not bringing you on the path to being the best version of yourself, that's essentially what I do for my coaching clients. Is we are on an ongoing journey, myself and my coaching clients, to become our best version of ourselves so that we can bring the best version of ourselves to everyone and everything we have contact with in our lives. We want to be in the driver's seat. We want to decide. So you will have to process through emotions that are not serving you. Again, feel them, but then you move forward from them. You, again, are the only one who can control these. But again, your brain often doesn't remind you of this. You don't have to entertain. Write this down. If you are multitasking or half paying attention, come back to what I'm saying right now. Come back to me right now so you can hear this. And I'm going to repeat it. It's that good. You don't have to entertain and then host every thought that your brain serves you. You don't have to entertain and then host every thought that your brain serves you. In other words, you don't have to give brain space to thoughts that aren't serving you. You should determine that. You should put your thoughts through a filter to ask yourself, is this a thought that is serving me, or is this harming me in some way? Because your brain will serve you lots of harmful thoughts. But again, you control those too. So if it is not a helpful thought, we need to change that. That's a whole different conversation. But just know that you don't have to entertain and then give brain space to every thought your brain serves you. You can decide what is serving you. So your thoughts and emotions, that's something you can control. The third thing you can't control is your responses. You can always have a response to any situation, to any circumstance, even to the limitations and the curveballs and the obstacles and the challenges and the gut-wrenching struggles that life serves you. You always can choose to have a response. This really gets to the heart of what we're talking about here. This is where you can take something that feels like it happened to you, and you can take action. When life feels out of control, you have to choose your response in order to get back in control. Again, if you're multitasking, come back and listen to this. When life feels out of control, make the choice to choose a response that puts you back in control. What is going to make you feel like you are in control of this particular situation? Identify that. And what is the first action step you can take to put you back in that seat of being in control? What is your first action step? What is going to be your response for right now? What is going to be your response and then your action for today? Just focus on that. So often it serves us well to remind ourselves that we can worry about tomorrow. Sometimes you can worry about this afternoon. Sometimes you can worry about the next hour. So when you feel like you are out of control and like life is out of control, your responses, such a key thing to lean into. Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where when we're talking with someone or maybe just even realizing things ourselves, we can realize I'm in a funk right now. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling sad. And again, mental illness is a thing, and that's outside of what we're talking about here. But there are plenty of emotions that we experience that don't fall into the camp of something that you should be entertaining. So many of the things we think and feel and experience and are choosing to respond to, they are things that we can have a lot more influence over and take back control over. Sometimes you do need to seek help from the camp of the mental health industry. But there are also plenty of thoughts and emotions that you can take control over. This is why I love life coaching. This is why I fell in love with what life coaching did in my life and what inspired me to become a certified life coach myself. It's because with life coaching, with this concept of life coaching, it's always forward thinking. It's always taking any situation and asking the question, but what can I do? Because again, there's plenty of times where we're going to realize and recognize what we can't do. Life is going to limit us. Life is going to give us obstacles and struggles and challenges and gut-wrenching pain and circumstances and situations and all of that. But what can I do with it? How can I move forward? How can I get back in the driver's seat? Because in reality, I don't like it in the back seat, and you don't like it either. I don't like feeling out of control, and you don't like it either. And so it's so important for us to recognize these things that we can control. It's so, so helpful. So let's talk about a few more things that we can control. You can control your environment. Maybe not everything about it, but there are certain parts of your environment. There are probably a lot of parts of your environment that you can control. So for instance, your physical environment, you always have a physical environment. And learning to control your physical environment sets you up to be able to control your mental environment. So we're going to talk more about that coming up in the next episode. Because in reality, when we have experienced something that makes us feel out of control, it quickly can become a slippery slope where we just give in and just choose to let other things go too. When we feel out of control in one area, it's easy for us just to let go of the control that maybe we had in the other areas, but now we're just feeling discouraged. Now we're feeling down. Now we're feeling in that funk. And so it can quickly become this place where we just kind of let everything go. When you're out of control in one area, it's so easy to allow yourself to be out of control in another. So your health, this is something else that we can control. Maybe you have the desire to be healthier, but maybe you're not really doing much with that desire. And maybe you also have a clutter problem. Interestingly, again, this kind of gives you a little bit enlightens us a little bit just to know that, yeah, one thing when we're out of control in one area like our health, I can see how it could be easier for me to have a clutter problem too. Again, they can seem unrelated at the surface level, but at the root level, it's the same. And that is a loss of control in one area. It's so helpful to be out, to realize that and to do what we can to get back in control of that one area so that we don't allow other things to fall down this slippery slope too. In reality, you are the one who makes decisions about the lifestyle choices that you're experiencing. And in reality, you are the one that needs to make decisions about your health, your physical environment, something like clutter. But your brain can so much get in the way of keeping you from taking that control because, again, we don't realize it. We don't realize that we are the ones in control in areas, and we need to be doing this. Back to the health situation. This was true for me when I had a weight problem. I felt so down about that. And so just like, honestly, I chose to be powerless to do anything about my weight. In reality, to do the right things about my weight, I should say. I half-heartedly tried a few things here or there and then felt frustrated that they weren't working. But in reality, I wasn't really taking control. I was maybe throwing a few things at it, but I wasn't in the driver's seat there. And so when in my life, though, when I go back to that period of when I had a weight problem all those years, it was so much easier for me to let my home be out of control. It was so much easier for me to let my behavior be out of control in other areas too. And so recognizing that we can control things like this is so helpful. So let's think about the physical environment again. If we can control that, how do we do that? Essentially, we can practice the skill of empowerment to take action in the ways that we can. So taking control of our physical environment, again, is going to set us up to have an easier time maintaining our mindset. Again, which is what we're talking about in the next episode. But for that physical environment, let's just I want to go a little bit deeper with you for a second on that home level, right? Our homes, we have homes, we live in them, and that is a physical environment. And so if you're listening to this episode, it's likely because life feels out of control in some way. And if this is true, it's because again, there are always going to be elements of things that you can't control in your home too. But if you're listening to this episode, I'm guessing it's because things feel slightly out of control. And I'm going to guess that you have at least some area in your home that feels out of control. And so in thinking about what this area of what your home is, let's think about this one thing. Let's think about this one area. Maybe it's a room, maybe it's a closet, maybe it's a drawer. For me, it was my storage closet. And this was something I just went through this weekend. And so I had bins that had fallen over. Some of them had opened up and clothes were spilling out. And I had known that this closet was this way for a while, but I just ignored it. Why? Because it just felt out of control. And in reality, I hadn't chosen to take back control. I hadn't chosen to get in the driver's seat about it and to do something about it. And so let me just take you through a little practical skill here. When we're talking about the things that we can't control or the things that we can control, and we're talking about our physical environment, I want you to think of one area for you. Choose one area in your home. Let's put these practical skills to use. We're going to roll up our sleeves here a minute. So let's choose this one area in your home that feels out of control for you. But you want it to be something that you can complete in 2 hours or less, or make substantial progress on in 2 hours or less. So maybe it's part of a larger project, but I'm going to walk you through 4 steps here. So you want to choose an area that you can use these 4 steps in. So make sure that it is a small area. And what this is going to do is this is going to show you in one tangible, reality-based way how you can take back control of something that feels out of control in your physical environment. Okay, so here's the first step. Number 1, choose to control. I'm just going to use my closet as an example. So choose to control this closet in 2 hours or less. And you're literally going to write that out. Not necessarily that I'm going to choose to control this closet, but maybe you will write, I'm going to get this closet organized and decluttered and put back in order. Maybe that's what you write, but you write it out. You write out what is your intent to take back control of this physical area in your home. Did you know that when you write something down, you are more than 40% likely to take action and make that goal happen, make that outcome happen? So that's why I'm asking you to, in step 1, write out what your intent is. Write it out, declare it, take ownership of it. That's step number 1. Step number 2, when it comes to this physical area, again, I'm going to use my closet as an example. Take everything necessary out of the area. So for me, when I say all the things that are necessary, I'm just taking out the bins that have fallen over and need to be reorganized. Part of the closet is still intact. I don't need to do the whole thing, but I'm going to be pulling out the things that are necessary and clean it out. For me, that means I'm going to vacuum up the cobwebs. I'm going to vacuum and mop it on the floor. I'm going to get that cleaned out. That's all part of step number 2 is removing and cleaning. Step number 3 is now that everything is out of the closet, you're going to decide what goes back in that area. And it might not be everything. Asking yourself questions like, does this serve me? Does this serve a purpose? It can be totally freeing when not everything goes back in there. Everything that is in there, you want to have confidence and know that everything that is there belongs there, which means here's why this matters. Again, if you're multitasking, come back because we're talking a little bit about clutter, organizing, that kind of thing. So when you are having a space that feels out of control and you have taken everything out and you're examining what goes back in and what doesn't, when you come across things that don't go back there, that aren't serving you, they don't belong there, they're things that maybe you need to let go of, it could be so freeing. And here's why. It's because the stuff is no longer controlling you. So as you have all of the stuff removed, I encourage you to go through item by item and ask what belongs back in here. And only put back the things that do belong. That's all part of step number 3. Step number 4 is that you are going to put stuff back in, but you're going to do it in a more organized way if possible. Essentially, what you want to ask is, how can I avoid this area from becoming a problem again? If you put things back in the same way, you're more than likely going to wind up back in the same place with that area at some point. What this skill does that I just walked you through here is it helps you build confidence in taking back control of your environment, but also that you're learning the skill in general of taking back control of your physical environment. Again, when we learn how to take back control of your physical environment, it's going to cross over into taking control of your mental environment, your thoughts, your mindset. And that's where we're going to start in the next episode. So make sure that you come back for the 3rd and final episode in this 3-part series right here on the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast. We'll talk then. Make it a great day.